This is different, Beth, you're right. Because I can see the lights and not anybody. I'm going to take this out. So, there's a fine line between being competent and being cocky. So in my final year of my medicine training, I'm a physician, I was about as competent as I will never be again in hospital medicine, having been eating, not sleeping, and breathing medicine for 2 years. And I really loved what I was doing, but it's hard to love what you're doing at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So I was 22 hours into a 36-hour workday, hoping to grab some sleep, and I got called by the ER. So I don't know if anybody works in an ER here. You're not bad people, but you wake us up. We don't like you because you wake us up when we're trying to get sleep. And so the ER resident, who I know, who's a good guy, he calls me, he goes, so I got an elderly female down here. Husband brought her in. He seems really worried. He says she's not acting right. So, metaphorically, I can now do change in mental status work up in my head. Literally, unfortunately, to finish it, I have to get out of my bed. So I'm listening very carefully while he's going through the really very extensive workup he's already done. He's gone all the way down the algorithm I have well plastered in my head. Head CT, spinal tap, I mean, he's gone all the way to figuring everything out. I gotta get out of bed, I gotta go find her. So I walked down to the emergency room, which where I trained was still an emergency room. They're a little salty about that in big emergency departments now. Not a room or a department. It was a room. It was a big room that had gurneys all the way around the outside. She was dead center. And the first thought I had when I saw her was, she's not acting right. Like she doesn't look right. She was a big woman. She wasn't fat. She was a big boned woman. A gurney that was just barely long enough for her, a gown that was really not big enough for her, yet her posture was imperious, and her gaze was like she was surveying her kingdom. The thought that I had was Julia Child, just a little bit annoyed when I saw her. And sure enough, next to her is a little man who's rubbing his hands together, looking very concerned, alternately patting her arm, rubbing his hands together. And so I walk up, I approach the woman not acting right, and she gives me a nod, nothing more, after I introduce myself and explain my role. Okay, so I turn to the husband and I say, I hear your wife's not acting right. And he said, oh my gosh, doctor, I'm so worried. I hope you can help us. Okay, all right, let me see what I can do. So I examine her. She's cooperative during the exam. She just has this weird way of, one word answering my questions. Can you cough for me? Yes. Does this hurt? No. Can you turn this way? And I get through the whole physical exam and I can't find anything, which is just what the ER doctor told me. So we move into the next part called the mini mental status exam. So the mini mental status exam is offensive if you're acting right, because what's your name, who's the president, what's the date. She got it all right. I move into the harder part of the mini mental status exam. Subtract 7 from 100 repeatedly. She got it all right. What is the literal meaning of gathering, a stone that rolls gathers no moss? She got that right. We get to recalling 3 things in 5 minutes. Ball, flag, tree. She got it all right. It suddenly occurs to me that I might have missed something in my efficient, competent, a little bit cocky initial talk to her. So I turn to her husband and I say, what I should have said in the beginning, what exactly did you mean she's not acting right? And he says, oh, we went to Big Boy this morning and she didn't finish her breakfast. She loves Big Boy. I'm very worried. And I composed myself just long enough to not go, what? But now we're getting somewhere, right? And I want to go back to bed. So I turn to the wife and I say, so why didn't you finish your breakfast at Big Boy's this morning? She's not alarmed by this question at all. And she said, my stomach hurts. Really? Oh my God. And I said, we're getting somewhere. Why do you think your stomach hurts? And she said, perhaps because I ran out of my Pepsid 3 days ago. And I said, so if I was perhaps to give you a prescription for Pepsi, you would be comfortable then going home? She said, yes, I think that would be lovely. So I start to walk away and I turn back and I say to her, you talk
really slowly. And she said, I speak deliberately. You're out of here. So, this is a story that I've used as I trained medical residents behind me. Two important lessons from this. So, the generational gap in respect for authority is huge, right? So, this is the greatest generation on earth, and they have such a respect for authority that me, 30 years younger than them, a doctor in training, they never stop and say, even respectfully, I don't mean to tell you your business, but my stomach hurts, like you did a spinal tap. And I think she probably went home and told her friends, those doctors are so thorough. So thorough, right? And the second thing, of course, is that you never launch in without saying, what do you mean exactly, right? And this was always just a medical story lesson for me until I had the misfortune of, on vacation last week, getting to watch the news repeatedly. And I noticed that there's a very fine line in our nation now between our ability to cooperate and unbridled righteous indignation, right? And the width of that line is now a text, a tweet, or a soundbite, right? And if we all took the time to say, what did you mean exactly? Would that not be a little better?